Hello and welcome back to yet another episode. Myself, Fazira Razak Hamza, Assistant Professor in PG Department of Computer Science, and I'm here to present on the course Principles of Software Engineering. So, in the last episode, we completed our Unit 1. Now we are moving on to Unit 2, that is Requirements Engineering. So, designing and building computer software is challenging and creative. A software developer should have a clear understanding of what is needed. The broad spectrum of tasks and techniques that lead to an understanding of requirements is called requirements engineering. From a software process perspective, requirements engineering is a major software engineering action that begins during the communication activity and continues into the modeling activity. It must be adapted to the needs of the process, the project, the product, and the people doing the work. Requirements engineering builds a bridge to design and construction. Requirements engineering provides the appropriate mechanism for understanding what the customer wants, analyzing needs, assessing feasibility, negotiating a reasonable solution, specifying the solution, validating the specification, and managing the requirements as they are transformed into an operational system. Here it encompasses 7 distinct tasks. Let's see what are the tasks. So, the first task is inception. So, actually, the word meaning inception is establishing. So, at project inception, we establish a basic understanding of the problem. The people who want a solution, the nature of the solution that is desired, and the effectiveness of the preliminary communication and collaboration between other stakeholders and the software team. So, this is what inception does, establishing understanding. Then, the next task is elicitation. Elicitation means the process of getting something or to produce something. So, at elicitation, ask the customers, the users, and others what the objectives for the system or product are, what is to be accomplished, how the system or product fits into the needs of the business, and finally, how the system or product is to be used on a daily basis. During elicitation, the problems encountered are the problem of scope, problems of understanding, and problem of volatility. So what is problem of volatility? This occurs when the requirements change over time. Okay, so managing that is known as problem of volatility. Our next task is elaboration. The information obtained from the customer during inception and elicitation are expanded and refined during elaboration. This task focuses on developing a refined requirements model that identifies various aspects of software functions, behavior, and information. Our next task is negotiation. It is common for different customers or users to propose conflicting requirements, arguing that the version is essential for our special needs. So, conflicting means all the requirements are needed by some or the other users. This is solved through a process called negotiation. Customers, users, and other stakeholders are asked to rank requirements and then discuss conflicts in priority. So, first the requirements are ranked and prioritized. Using an iterative approach, the requirements are prioritized, assesses the cost and risk, and addresses internal conflicts And at last, it is decided whether to eliminate the requirements, combine, or modify so that each party achieves some measure of satisfaction. Our next task is specification. A specification can be a written document, a set of graphical models, a formal mathematical model, a collection of usage scenarios, a prototype, or any combination of the above said models. For large systems, a written document combining natural language descriptions and graphical models are used. So let's see the next task, that is validation. The work products produced as a consequence of requirement engineering are assessed for quality during validation step. Requirements validation examines the specification to ensure that all software requirements have been stated and also errors have been detected and corrected. The primary requirement validation mechanism is the technical review. So let's see what is the review team does. The review team that validates requirements include software engineers, customers, users, and other stakeholders who examine the specification looking for errors in content or interpretation. So here we are only dealing with requirements. So our requirements specification team or review team will be engineers, customers, users, or other stakeholders. Then we have the last task, that is management. Requirements for computer-based systems change and the desire to change requirements throughout the life of the system. So, requirements management is a set of activities that help the project team identify, control, and track requirements and changes to requirements at any time as the project proceeds. Okay, so these are the tasks which we are performing during requirements engineering. So after a requirements engineering, we will be developing a SRS, that is Software Requirement Specification. This is a document. So a Software Requirement Specification SRS is a document that is created when a detailed description of all aspects of the software to be built must be specified before the project is to commence. So it is important to know that a formal SRS is not always written. Okay, outline of an SRS is as follows. We have table of contents, then we'll be having a revision history, then we'll be having an introduction. The first part contains introduction. Under introduction, we have purpose of the project, document conventions, intended audience and reading suggestions, project scope, then references. This is the first part. Then in the second part, we have overall description. Under overall description, we have product perspective, product features, user classes and characteristics, operating environment, design and implementation constraints, documentation, assumptions, and dependencies. Now, under the third point, we have system features, under which we have so many features to be listed. So we have given system feature 1, system feature 2, and so on. Under the fourth point, we have external interface requirements, which consist of user interfaces, hardware interfaces, software interfaces, communication interfaces. Then we have the fifth point as other non-functional requirements, under which we have performance requirements, safety requirements, security requirements, software quality attributes. And the sixth point contains other requirements. After sixth point, we'll be having 3 appendixes. That is, Appendix A consists of glossaries, Appendix B consists of analysis models, and Appendix C consists of issues list. So this is the format of or an outline of an SRS, Software Requirement Specification. Now I'll move on to how can we establish the groundwork for requirements engineering. The steps required to establish the groundwork for an understanding of software requirements. Okay. Here we are going to discuss about the steps required to establish the groundwork for an understanding of software requirements to get the project started in a way that will keep it moving towards a successful solution. So, what are the steps? Let's see. First one is identifying stakeholders. So, a stakeholder is defined as anyone who benefits in a direct or indirect way from the system which is being developed. Each stakeholder has a different view of the system, right? So, since each stakeholder has a different view, we achieve different benefits when the system is successfully developed and is open to different risks if the development effort should fail. At inception, we should create a list of people who will contribute input as requirements are elicited. The initial list will grow as stakeholders are further contacted. So we know that so many stakeholders will be involved inside a project. So according to further contacting a stakeholder, the initial list of requirements gathering will grow and will become very large. So our next point is recognizing multiple viewpoints. Because many different stakeholders exist, the requirements of the system will be explored from many different points of view. Each of these views will contribute information to the requirements engineering process. So, as information from multiple viewpoints is collected, emerging requirements may conflict with one another. So first of all, we said, right, we have to rank and prioritize the requirements. So here also we are doing the same. We should categorize all stakeholders' information in a way that will allow decision makers to choose an internally consistent set of requirements for the system. So our next step is working toward collaboration. So the job of a requirements engineer is to identify areas of commonality. Areas of commonality means we are finding out what is common in the area. That is requirements on which all stakeholders agree and areas of conflict or inconsistency. So collaboration does not necessarily mean that requirements are defined by committee. But stakeholders collaborate by providing their view of requirements and make final decision about the requirements. So the final decision anyway are made by the stakeholders itself. So for making a final decision, they have to collaborate each other or they have to identify areas of commonality, that is requirements on which stakeholders agree. Okay, and our next step is asking the first questions. So what all questions we can ask in the preliminary stage? So questions asked at the inception of the project should be context free. The first set of context free questions focuses on the customer and other stakeholders, the overall project goals and benefits. The questions help to identify all stakeholders who will have interest in the software to be built. In addition, the questions identify the measurable benefit of a successful implementation and possible alternatives to custom software development. There are also other set of questions that helps to gain better understanding of the problem and allow the customer to voice his or her perceptions about a solution. These questions helps to initiate communication that is essential to successful elicitation. So, for properly elicitation to plan according to the project, we have to ask certain or some other kinds of questions to gather information. These are all about establishing the groundwork. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening.